Like, oh, they're going to mash up these leaves and feed them to me.
What I love is actually functional medicine. The UK market has almost been like the toughest to crack, which is silly because it's the most important.
Don't get started on painkillers.
Of doctors who just felt like they were like pill poppers, like drug dealers. But functional medicine doctors, holistic healthcare practitioners, we're interested in the why. We're like, okay, what's causing it? Because that's not actually a diagnosis. You had a pin in your foot, would you put a plaster over it and keep walking on it, or would you want to take the pin out? We say that genetics kind of load the gun and your environment pulls the trigger.
One thing I did want to ask, and this isn't this one just popped into my head, is oftentimes when people think of, like, I've worked with both Western medicine, holistical medicine, can see the benefits of both. However, a lot of people view holistical medicine as witchy woo. What the hell are they waffling on about? So what would you say to that? Because I think you've been through both sides of it. You've had a negative experience with Western medicine, moved to holistical and had a very positive experience. But then for those that don't know about holistical medicine, it's like, oh, it's almost like, I think everyone thinks of like, oh, they're going to mash up these leaves and feed them to me. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think it is, especially, it's really interesting because I work online. I work with clients kind of all over the world, and it's really interesting to see different people's opinions and approaches. And I do find the UK market has almost been like the toughest to crack. And I think it is because of that, partly, and also probably because we've had free healthcare, right? So we're not used to paying for any kind of healthcare, which is silly because it's the most important thing. And once you've got that right, you can kind of go on, live your best life. But yeah, so I would say, I think there is definitely there's definitely room for both. And what I love is actually functional medicine. So it does exist in the UK, but it's a lot more prevalent in the US and Australia. And it's basically where these are kind of normal Western doctors have realized that actually, instead of like just handing out pills and like, I've watched so many lectures of doctors who just felt like they were like pill poppers, like drug dealers, because that's what they were doing. They weren't actually able to help their patients, and it was really affecting them as well, because they were like, we're not actually helping them get better, we're just stopping them get any worse. And then sometimes they get a ton more symptoms from the medication that they're taking. So they've then gone on and studied even more, and they're now functional medicine doctors. So I would say the difference between the two is that Western doctors are kind of interested in the what. They're great, by the way, I want to say that, and especially for medical emergencies, awesome. But it's like, if you're dealing with a chronic condition, they haven't got the time, and they haven't always got the knowledge, and they're kind of just specialized in their area. Whereas functional medicine doctors, holistic healthcare practitioners, we're interested in the why. So kind of getting to the root cause. We're like, okay, whereas your Western doctor might be like, it's IBS. We're like, okay, what's causing it? Because that's not actually a diagnosis. There's a reason behind it. It's almost, I always give the analogy of, if you had a pin in your foot, would you put a plaster over it and keep walking on it, or would you want to take the pin out? And we take the pin out. So it's, so we work with blood tests. It's all completely science backed, especially me with my mind. Like, I need to know that there's science behind it. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And there can be people on social media who don't give it the best name, or like these influencers who don't really know what they're talking about. But you need to find the good eggs who do, and we bring it all together.
And I say, I say that as well, having used it. Like, I've got my osteopath. He's all for holistical health. Don't get him started on painkillers. He goes off on one. And then his mum's holistical horoscope. She works with that, and it does work.
Oh, wow.
That's the thing. It does work, and I think, as you say, it's bringing that awareness to say there is space for both. Like, I definitely believe in both, and I think there's too much of this, like, oh, you got to be one camp or the other. Like, why do we always fall into that? We always fall, no matter what part of life you look at. There's always like, oh, you've got to be left wing, right wing. You got to be this, you got to be that. It's like
everything has to have a label, and I think that's what I love about holistic healthcare and being a holistic health coach. Is like one of our biggest kind of foundational words that we use is bio-individuality, and it's basically the idea is that no one person is the same, and like another person's food, one person's food is like another person's poison. Like I'm sure you've seen all over the internet at the moment, especially, definitely falls into what you were just saying. It's like the carnivore diet, and then it's the plant-based diet, and it's like, guys, like you don't have to choose a side. And really, in my opinion, what's bringing these both together is that you're not eating as much shit, you're not eating as much processed food, you're eating more whole foods. And I don't think people should be shamed for their choices or made to kind of sit in one category. Health is really bio-individual. It depends on your upbringing, it depends what traumas you've had, like what genetics you've kind of got. We say that genetics kind of load the gun and your environment pulls the trigger. So it's kind of very much looking at what's going on in your world every day and seeing nutrition is a huge part, but what else are you consuming that's kind of leading to your health issues as well?